Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for the organizers for having me here today. My talk will be even quicker than the last one, so it's just a 10-minute overview of what we have been achieved or have been trying to do with humanAIzed. humanAIzed is a company that works on different AI-enabled products, especially in the education industry. And today I would like to summarize the political challenges that we have faced so far in one of our endeavors. On the left-hand side, you see a typical student room at home these days. And people are always used now to use the PlayStation 4, the Nintendo Wii, a virtual reality headset. So this is a common case for technology in a household these days. On the right-hand side, you see what today's standard is in German schools. And this is not an exaggeration. So schools still, in the southern part of Germany, for instance, they still use Windows XP. They have old desktop stations. They don't even have broadband internet. So you see that the discrepancy between what students are used to and what they're taught with is extremely large. And we want to change this as a company. Especially Germany now is a specific case because there is a Digitalpakt in Germany which provides 5 billion euros until the year 2023 to public schools, so vocational schools, high schools, middle schools. And this is money which is given for a specific purpose. So in Germany, you need to buy hardware or software which improves teaching and learning in those schools. So the right-hand side is more or less the vision of the German government, how they envision a classroom to look like in 3 to 4 years. And virtual reality is one specific technology that could help in digitalizing those schools. And the question is always, is virtual reality actually something that can improve education and can help you to understand a certain subject? There haven't been too many studies out there, but there are some which claim and which also scientifically prove that this is the case. So you see here on the left-hand side the nasal channel of a person, and this was given in 3D to high school students for about 5 minutes, and then they had to recreate the 3D shape of this nose with clay. And you see on the right-hand side the result of a sample. And this is something that was then quantified compared to another sample group which didn't have those 3D visualization tools at hand. And it was proven that those people that used the VR headset or a 3D overview of those nasal channels, they had a better imagination and a better visualization of this. So clearly there's a scientific proof that in specific cases, for instance magnetic fields, force fields, the human heart, photosynthesis, certain modules can be enhanced and can be visualized in 3D and virtual reality for students to learn better and faster. Now the big challenge is the following. People, especially children, are used to VR games which are that immersive that they can play in this virtual space for 2 to 3 hours. They have opponents, they have an environment which is these days as close to the reality as possible. And on the right-hand side, you have something which is still a challenge for companies like us that work in this field between VR and AI. We need to create modules that can be used in a classroom which is of limited duration. So it has to be a module which is about 5 to 10 minutes in length. So the students should use their virtual reality headset. They should see a specific module, for instance the human heart, or something else like a molecule in 3D. And they have to play around with it for 5 to 10 minutes, and then the normal classroom experience continues with the teaching. And so even though people say, well, virtual reality in education has no chance because there's no money in education, as you guys all know, this is not necessarily true because we don't have to build those 2-3 hour long games in virtual reality. We only have to create specific modules for, let's say, a duration of 5 to 10 minutes, which clearly transform or transport a specific viewpoint. So this sounds all easy and nice. The challenge comes now with the following. You see on the left-hand side an experiment in China. This is a virtual reality room where people, and especially high school students, they walk around in a virtual space, and there they are able to learn a specific language, a foreign language, in this case Mandarin. And what happens here is the students walk from one station to another, for instance to a bakery, then to a butcher, then to the train station. And in the virtual reality space, they talk to those people, and then they have to answer in that foreign language. And what China now does, they use data from 2 million people over many different schools in many different areas. And this, of course, helps to understand what kind of modules, what kind of interactions are beneficial for each student and which are not. In Europe, and especially in Germany, this is not so easy, because since last year we have this GDPR regulation. You guys know all these accept cookies, pop-ups when you visit a website. It is not so easy to generalize a model or a virtual environment learning experience with this political framework. And so imagine the following case. You have a virtual reality module, for instance, the human heart, on the right-hand side, deployed in each classroom. So a student is able to put up the virtual reality glasses, and he can walk through the human heart, can see how the blood flows through the vessels, how the heart pumps, the different valves. So he or she is able to experience this more or less in real life. And it has been proven that this improves the learning experience. For us now, as a data science company, it is crucial and important to understand, does this module improve the learning experience? Because we want to do learning analytics on top of it. And the speaker before me also mentioned adaptive learning. So we want to make sure that we understand what kind of angles, what kind of views we have to give to the student to get a better overview of the human heart. This is data that we can now collect per student and per school. But in order to train those models, you need lots of data. And just to deploy a human heart in one school with 800 students that use that once a day for 5 minutes is not enough. So we need to gather and aggregate those different data sources across many different schools. And Germany has 16 different states, and each state has its own school cloud with different software. So in the end, this is a multi-tenant solution that we have to build up. And once you combine these different data sources, so once you understand, okay, a student in Munich is able to see the human heart in that sense or in that space, and is able to answer questions in an exam the right way, you would like to use this knowledge for a student in Hamburg who has the same or similar exam questions. So you want to give him the same visual experience to learn about the human heart so he learns faster. And this is something that we're currently setting up in a federated machine learning environment. So we aggregate the different data sources from a local model in a federated server, and there we train a global model across all the different schools that are now taking part in this endeavor. And the data that we collect globally is anonymized and helps us to share the knowledge and the learning curves that we track in Munich to also give it away to students in Hamburg, for instance. And this is more or less the overall goal of us. So it's a very, very difficult endeavor right now. We want to do learning analytics, and we want to use lots of data to do it, because we want to make sure that we provide the right models in VR. Because still, even though it's a 5 to 10 minute module, it's still very expensive to build a content-enriched human heart module, for instance. And we want to be sure that we are right, and that the content creators that help us to create this content are the best ones. And to provide these capabilities for learning analytics, we need to gather data. So once we have this data and once we understand what kind of module helps in which context, we can then give this back to the content creators. This is currently a pool of several different teachers. They create new modules, we deploy them in production, and we learn again in this federated setting. And the overall vision of us for this specific endeavor is that we can improve the speed and the efficiency of high school students in scientific classes such as biology and physics. This is a very difficult endeavor. I only had 10 minutes to present it. If you want to know more about it, please feel free to come to our booth on Wednesday. We would be very happy to talk to you. And thank you very much for your attention.